If you've been dreaming about a place where life feels a little more intentional, discover the Canopy in Sebastopol by City Ventures. This new community offers solar-powered homes, surrounded by mature trees, nature preserves, and walking trails, with a vibrant local downtown, renowned wineries, and the Bay Area all within easy reach. Enjoy low-maintenance living, refined design, and built-in eco-friendly features that make everyday life easier. Start your next chapter at the Canopy by City Ventures. Visit cityventures.com. That's cityventures.com.
Shop the Sherwin-Williams 4th of July sale and get 30% off paints and stains June 26th through July 6th. Whether you're refreshing your interior or exterior, we've got the colors to bring your vision to life. And with delivery, getting everything to your door is easier than ever. Shop online to have it delivered or visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store. Click the banner to learn more. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details. Delivery available on qualifying orders.
Welcome to the Irish NFL Show on the Believe Network, brought to you in association with QuinBet. Well, the World Cup is already in the knockout stages. The All-Ireland football and hurling semi-finals are set. NFL teams are enjoying a brief break before they get back into camp. But in the meantime, we're breaking down each division team by team. Check out our other divisional reviews wherever you get your podcasts this evening. And it's Monday evening at the time of recording here. We're putting the NFC East under the microscope. Brian O'Leary, Kieran Boyle and Craig Rigdon with me, Conor Brophy. The lone non-Giants fan, I have to say, here to keep the other three honest, because it is to the NFC East we turn. And lo and behold, the first team we'll be discussing, because of where they finished, not because of the three lads on the podcast, is the New York Giants, because we're moving bottom to top, as the Giants hope they will be doing likewise, Kieran Boyle, this season. Hope springs eternal in New York, especially when you got a Super Bowl winning head coach in John Harbaugh, who miraculously, in many ways, became free because the Ravens decided they'd had enough. Baltimore's lost very much New York's game by the looks of it.
Yeah, it's kind of nice how it worked out. I mean, you know, it all starts at the top with Harbaugh and the philosophy that he brings. I know there's been coaching changes. There's been a lot of background and backroom changes, but it all comes from him. He's eloquent. When he talks, he's got that kind of gravitas. He's been there before, obviously. So, he brings a huge level of, confidence to the fan base, because it's been, there's no need to discuss it in detail, but it's just been an absolute crap show for the last 10, 12 years. So for him to come in, it's a huge coup for the Giants. I mean, it's when it was whispered and it was mentioned that he was in the running, and the momentum took off, a lot of Giants fans got real excited. So it's a great pickup. And they've kind of gone from there. As soon as the head coach was announced, they started getting into the free agency stuff, which is great, because they badly needed some additions on free agency. Draft was, we'll go into the draft. I'm sure the other guys will touch on the draft. But when you got somebody like Harbaugh coming in and introducing himself and making sure that he knows and everybody else knows that he's the boss, with all the stuff going in the background with the executives at the Giants, he makes sure that he's putting his stamp on this. And it's year one of a project that hopefully will be a long-term project for the Giants to put them in the better direction that they've been for a long, long time. And like I said earlier, he just brings a level of gravitas to the position, a level of kind of focus, and everything will flow down from him, as you saw in Baltimore. And he's also got that, that special teams kind of background as well. So you're going to see a lot of different kind of patterns and different kind of sets and lineups, which I'm looking forward to as well. We don't need to rehash last year. Everyone knows what a disaster it was, but it's refreshing to look around at the roster, and there's improvements across the board. Like I said, I'm sure that the guys will go into it in a little bit more detail. There's still a lot of question marks. There's still a lot of ifs and maybes. Jaxson Dart year, this year, how will it go? Year two, as the established starter, can the Giants D be improved upon? Obviously with new coaching, injuries, can they stay injury free? What's up with Malik Neighbors? Is he going to play? Will it be week 2, 3, 4 when he comes back in? My main worry, and my worry that always kind of it starts with this team, is the O-line, and it's a little bit improved on last year. I still have some questions about depth, but he drafted CC Mawinoa, and he'll go on right guard. It'll be a huge addition to that position. So I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm interested to see where the guys go in this. I'm not gonna go over the top right now. I'm going to be cautiously optimistic, but you can't help but be impressed with not just the way that Harbaugh has taken over, but a lot of the moves that he's made too. A lot of or him and Shane bringing in some pretty decent free agents. So it's going to be fun to see how it all comes together. And it really, in all actuality, it can't be as bad as last year. Anything improving on the 4-13 last year will be looked as a bonus. And let's see where the season takes us.
Brian, we saw head coaches make an instant impact across the league last year. Ben Johnson in Chicago, Mike Vrabel, obviously in the Patriots, taking them the whole way to the Super Bowl. Mike McDonald only took 2 years to get the Seahawks there and to win the whole thing. So it's not by any means unprecedented for a coach to come into the NFL. And we have very recent examples, as I've just been saying, of coaches doing just that, taking a team from bottom to top in one season. In all the examples I just listed, though, the key ingredient was that the coach also had the quarterback. Do the Giants have the quarterback in Jaxson Dart?
I think they do, Connor, if he can remain on the field. And I think this will come in time with other coaches that have come in. Brian Callahan, former head coach in Tennessee, quarterback coach there. You got Nagy coming in. Experienced coaches that I think will coach that naivety out of him in terms of what we saw last year, where he's not willing to make the smart decision and go down or go off the sideline. And he says, I'm open to hits and I'm willing to take them because that's the way I played my game. But Connor, you've rightly called out for a long time. If you don't play sensible in this league, you won't be in the league for very long. What's the thing? Best availability, or, in terms of quarterback playing week to week.
Best ability is availability. It's your
There we go. Thanks, Connor. You threw it in there. I think what we saw in particular, there was some great spots last year in some distant.
If you've been dreaming about a place where life feels a little more intentional, discover the Canopy in Sebastopol by City Ventures. This new community offers solar-powered homes, surrounded by mature trees, nature preserves, and walking trails, with a vibrant local downtown, renowned wineries, and the Bay Area all within easy reach. Enjoy low-maintenance living, refined design, and built-in eco-friendly features that make everyday life easier. Start your next chapter at the Canopy by City Ventures. Visit cityventures.com. That's cityventures.com.
Disappointing moment being here on first hand, saw a fantastic performance against the Eagles. And sometimes you have to reflect on who you're playing. The Eagles were a team that the Giants couldn't get over the hump for quite some time. And he came out and put a comprehensive performance in prime time on a Thursday night. He followed it up the following week with a huge performance in Denver. And let's not forget, there was a complete meltdown in the fourth quarter defensively. It wasn't down to Jaxson Dart, and in fact, he still brought them down in the end to actually go and try win the game. And ultimately, I think his skill set kind of cost us in a roundabout way towards the back end of the season, because when they were playing for nothing, he still wasn't. He wanted to prove himself. He goes into Las Vegas. He wins there. He beats the Cowboys. I think there's enough.
And Brian, I know we'll bring Craig in a moment, but Craig made a very impassioned pitch for Jaxson Dart as Offensive Rookie of the Year on the AV Club at one point last season. And he had a point, didn't he? Because you tend to shower the awards on the players whose teams do really well. But if you're to compare the situation Jaxson Dart was in to the level of performances that he managed to achieve at times, he had a credible argument.
Absolutely. I think he outplayed probably the expectations when he came into the league, because he was a late first round pick. I think he outplayed the expectations because of the nature of the team. He probably outplayed because of the circumstances gone on in the organization, with the head coach being fired early on in the season. And there were certain games where, just touched on that point, the Chicago game, Connor, you said to me a couple of weeks ago, if he didn't get that concussion, the Bears aren't coming back to win that game, because he was playing lights out that night. I think we've seen enough flash spots in a disappointing season, in particular, again, even second half in New England, when they're completely blown out, he still kept playing to the very end. What I would call out, Connor, and it's an off-the-field piece, is I'm slightly alarmed by the nature of his offseason in terms of he seems to be here, there, and everywhere. And that's the life he wants to lead. Fair play to him. I suppose when you're in the New York window, you have that huge opportunity. But that kind of strikes me as the kind of quarterback that does that when they've had the career, or they're 4 or 5 years in and they're solidified. I just think he's doing too much too soon for me personally.
Yeah, well, I have 2 words for you. Caleb Williams. Caleb wasn't exactly quiet when he came into Chicago either. Made a lot of noise and put a lot of expectation and weight on his own back. That didn't work out too badly.
No, and he's probably the touch point for the Giants this season. You're looking at expectations for a year or two. Can the quarterback bring this team, as you said, last year? It doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be the case this year. We've seen teams go from the bottom very quickly up to the first. I think they're the kind of leading light. The Bears last year, as you touched on, Ben Johnson comes in. The Bears were struggling the previous year, but it looked like they were moving in the right direction. I think the Giants are moving in the right direction, and even reflecting on Harbaugh, what we've seen over the course of the last 3-4 months, it's very much a Harbaugh-led organization now. Like Joe Schoen may be remaining in situ as the GM, he's got the contract, but I think ultimately, by and large, all decisions are being made by Harbaugh. And what's really striking is in previous years, and I think this is across the board in the league, it's kind of refreshing to see him getting out in front of the media. Time and time again, we've seen head coaches in New York go down with the media because they're not willing to address issues. They kind of paper the cracks. They come up with some kind of spoofology. He kind of he addresses every situation, and he kind of turns it in a positive. Malik Neighbours draft night came out. There was conversation where he was a bit annoyed, shall we say, by the pick about Arvell Reese Braves going to play. The media tried to go to town on that the following day. Harbaugh quickly spoils the party and comes up with an alternative conversation as to how he can control the narrative there. I just think right now we're dealing with a head coach, 18 years experience. He knows how to deal with players. And I think ultimately he'll know what to do with Jaxson Dart to get Jaxson Dart in a position to win games. He did say when he joined, he was very excited for the opportunity to coach a quarterback like this. He's had Lamar. Lamar's had a stellar career to date. I think he can do it similar with Jaxson Dart.
Craig, for those lucky enough to be watching your beautiful visage, it's framed wonderfully by a Jalen Brunson jersey and a Jaxson Dart jersey, which are very close to one another. I'm sure you're hoping that the energy from one championship win.
If you've been dreaming about a place where life feels a little more intentional, discover the Canopy in Sebastopol by City Ventures. This new community offers solar-powered homes, surrounded by mature trees, nature preserves, and walking trails, with a vibrant local downtown, renowned wineries, and the Bay Area all within easy reach. Enjoy low-maintenance living, refined design, and built-in eco-friendly features that make everyday life easier. Start your next chapter at the Canopy by City Ventures. Visit cityventures.com. That's cityventures.com.
Off on another potential New York hero as Brunson's energy transfers to the Giants. Talk to us about the talent around Jaxson Dart, because for all the knocks that Joe Schoen has been getting as GM over the past couple of years, he has managed to accumulate quite a bit of talent there, both through the draft and now through free agency. You get Neighbours back, and we're not entirely sure what the timeline is there, as Kieran was saying earlier. Get Cam Scadaboo back. Abdul Carter is another one who has just oodles of talent. Could probably do it laying off the phone and other devices at times and focusing on his game. But there's no, this is not a talent poor roster. It's not by no means a down to the studs rebuild. Like, a lot of the pieces potentially are in place here.
Yeah, and I think what they've done is they've built a roster that is young, so they're looking obviously to the future and they're looking over the next few years. I don't think that what we're looking at here is potentially a worst to first scenario. I think this could be a bit more of a slow burner across a few seasons. And when you actually look at the roster, that's the way that they've kind of set it up. The way that they've drafted, they're putting pieces into positions where they really struggled last year. You look at Arvell Reese, they bring him in. People say, oh, he's projected as an edge rusher. And Harbaugh goes, nope, he's playing linebacker. Linebacker's where we need. We put Tremaine Edmonds from your Bears right next to him. And we see what happens there, and we potentially solidify a position that has been the Giants' Achilles heel for God knows how long on defense in that linebacker core. You then look at the other top pick that he goes for in CC. You put CC in at guard. The interior of that Giants' offensive line was the worst thing about the offensive line last year. The tackles actually looked like we actually had two really good tackles for the first time in again forever, especially at that right tackle position with Jermaine Illuminor just locking that down. So they are starting to build it, but I think that the one thing that goes understated, and I think I've said this before, is what they're doing with the risk-reward players in picking up players like Isaiah Likely, who was a second behind Mark Andrews. You look at Darnell Mooney, who's coming off of a down year. You look at Calvin Austin, who's coming off of a few seasons where he started to go. You take the risk on Odell Beckham Jr. because it's a feel-good story and you never know what might happen there. You look at Juju Smith-Schuster, who, let's be honest, hasn't had a bad career. He's been with the Chiefs for a few years, could bring in some veteran presence. There are a lot of pieces there that are starting to go. You then look at the talent that did shine last year. Cam Scadaboo, who obviously, unfortunately, had the ankle issue during the second Eagles game there that really derailed that season. Malik Neighbours, who's due to come back. You look at Jaxson Dart, who we've spoken about, between the three of us quite easily. There are building blocks there. And they're even looking at stuff like later in the draft where you've got Colton Hood, who's come in, who's hopefully going to take over. You would potentially see from Greg Newsome as the season goes on. So there are definite building blocks here. I just think maybe I'm one of the Giants fans who's just tempered his expectations after too many years of not really seeing it on the field. We've only won 8 games once since 2016, and John Harbaugh is the right person to come in and take us up back to where we need to be, but it needs to start with a consistent base, and that's what I'm kind of looking for this season.
There's a comfort in being somewhere that still feels familiar, where people know each other and life moves with a sense of purpose. At Sunnyview, that sense of connection has always come first, shaped by shared values and a way of life that feels steady and true. In a place like Silicon Valley, where so much is always changing, this is somewhere that hasn't lost its center. Explore your options at sunny-view.org, a nonprofit life plan senior community within the Front Porch family.